Yo, what's going on, people? It's your boy Ape Huncho, back at you again with another video now. I'm pretty sure a lot of you watching this video right now have lived with family before, or maybe you still even live with your family right now. Of course, as time goes on, family members get on top of each other, and you end up having arguments over the silliest little things over pretty much next to nothing. Sometimes it isn't even that big of a deal, it could just be over what you're watching on TV or something like that, and I'm sure you can think of a time where maybe your brother or sister has annoyed you and so you got into it with them. But let me ask you this, would any of those arguments turn deadly? Well, this next story we're about to get into does in fact follow a trivial argument that took place in a household, and if you've read the title of the video, then you'll know exactly what the argument was about, and of course what happened after the argument. On the 10th of September 2019, at around 10:30am, Gwent police were called to a property on Kidwelly Road in Cwmbran to reports that someone was murdered, and for you guys wondering where that is, Cwmbran is a small town located in South Wales. When they arrived, they arrested a 55-year-old man on suspicion of murder, and he was taken into custody. At the time, a small statement was made by police to confirm that they wasn't looking for anyone else surrounding this incident. A few days after the incident, the 55-year-old man was named as Stephen Gallagher. He then appeared at Newport Magistrates Court, of course, where he was charged with the murder of his 76-year-old father, Thomas Gallagher. A couple of days later, the case was sent to Cardiff Crown Court. Here, he was remanded into custody until February of this year, where he was to appear in court once again to see if a trial was to go ahead. On that day, he pleaded guilty to the charges brought against him, so no trial was to go ahead. 2 days later, he appeared at Swansea Crown Court, where he was to be sentenced, of course because he pleaded guilty to the charges brought against him, and it was expected that he was going to be given a life sentence. But the hearing was adjourned so that his medical condition could be examined by experts. In this hearing, it emerged that Stephen might have been given a wrong diagnosis as having autism, and Paul Lewis QC, who was representing Stephen, said that his client might in fact be suffering from a combination of an obsessive compulsive disorder and personality disorder. So a final hearing was to take place, and that final hearing took place on the 10th of August 2020, only yesterday, and here more in-depth details would emerge about what exactly happened on the day that Stephen killed his father Thomas. Swansea Crown Court heard that after a post-mortem examination, it found that Thomas had been stabbed 12 times, which included stab wounds to the chest, back and neck, and it was heard that no defence wounds were present. Explaining the events of the day, it was said that the murder had happened after the pair had gotten into an argument about broadband speed, and then Thomas had asked Stephen to leave. But instead of leaving, Stephen would go and wield a knife and stab his father to death. Prosecutor Mark Waith QC said he went into some detail saying he stabbed his father to death at their home address. He stated that his father was indeed dead in the lounge. He stated that his father had asked him to leave and he didn't want to leave. There is collateral evidence that referred to Mr. Gallagher's difficulties with drinking in the past, and there has been a history of hostility by him towards his father. Going over police interviews, this is what Stephen recollects about murdering his father. He went on to say, "My father irritates me when he ignores me during arguments. He stormed off into the lounge and slammed the door, so I rushed upstairs and got the knife, and then I came back down. He was on the phone to someone, I grabbed the phone off him, smashed the phone, and then proceeded with the attack. I was stood in front of him face to face and I proceeded to use the knife. I thrust it into him, and the first blow was to the chest area. This caused him to fall back onto the sofa. I stood over him while stabbing him 9 or 10 times at that stage. I could see he was in pain and I wanted to finish him off, so I stabbed him again and said, 'Die.' In court, it was heard that just after 10am, Stephen would pick up the phone, dial 999, and tell the operator that he had just killed his father. After that call, he tried to ring his ex-partner, but instead spoke to his 18-year-old son and told him what had happened. Before emergency services arrived, a postwoman went to the house and saw Stephen acting calmly, smelling of aftershave, and gave no indication that his father's body was dead on the floor just feet away in the lounge. Prosecutor Mark Waith QC said the attack was carried out with such intensity that Thomas Gallagher, just like we previously said, was unable to defend himself, and there was no evidence of defensive injuries. The court heard details of an impact statement from Thomas's daughter Susan Pritchard. In the statement, she describes the pain of identifying her dad's body and the terror and pain on his face. She says she always feared that her brother Stephen would one day quote-unquote come for me or my mother, but she never believed he would go after their father. She says that she warned her dad about taking Stephen in, but Thomas had just wanted to help out, adding he loves solving problems, this one he could not solve. Paul Lewis QC defending said what began as a trivial argument between a father and son about the internet service in the house led to the tragic death of Thomas Gallagher and the conviction of his son for murder. It is clear there's a long history of depression, chronic fatigue syndrome and attempts of suicide. Adding his best mitigation is that he admitted what he had done straight away on the telephone and at his first arraignment. He's always admitted the stabbing. Why he did that is difficult to fathom. He also brought up the fact that Stephen was suffering from, in his own words, abnormalities of mental function and traits of narcissistic personality disorder and autism. After the hearing, Stephen was handed a life sentence to serve a minimum term of 13 years before being eligible for parole. Passing sentencing, Judge Paul Thomas QC said, "Even on your own account, you killed him that morning because, as was his right, he was asking you to leave the house. After an argument about broadband speed, instead of leaving or walking away, you purposefully went up to your room and you took a lock knife. You brought that lock knife downstairs to where your father was with one intention and one intention alone, which was to stab him to death. For that limited extent, perhaps for a minute or so, what you did was premeditated. You then attacked your elderly father. You did so with savagery and a total lack of any semblance of mercy towards him. The most chilling aspect of your butchery was what yourself told the police after you had started stabbing him while he was on the phone. He was clearly in pain and appealed to you by calling your name, asking you to stop what you were doing, and you didn't show him one bit of mercy. Let me quote your own words, Mr. Gallagher. I wanted to finish him off, so I stabbed him again and said die. Even after you showed astonishing indifference to what you had done, you later spoke to your 18-year-old son and once again displayed a really chilling callousness in the way you told him of your grandfather's death." After sentencing, police would put out this statement on behalf of the family.
"Losing Thomas has been a devastating tragedy. He was the beat of a big-hearted family and he has left a hole in our lives that will never be repaired. All of our happy memories will be kept forever in our hearts. We acknowledge the sentence that has been handed to Stephen Gallagher, but this will never compensate for the immense loss."
So it just goes to show you that the littlest argument here over broadband speeds has turned out deadly, and unfortunately someone has been killed in this situation. Now, I think the craziest thing in this whole situation though is the fact that Stephen has been handed a 13-year jail sentence, and some of the cases that we've been over before, maybe it's not been for murder but attempted murder GBH charges, we've seen a heavy sentence be brought against these people. So to get a minimum sentence of only 13 years is pretty lucky, to be honest. But I mean, he did plead guilty to the charge, so that might have brought it down, but still 13 years for brutally murdering an old man, which was his dad. It's just crazy to think about. And now I really do feel sad for the family because they've lost a son and brother, and they've also lost a father and husband. And I just want to take this time out just to say rest in peace to Thomas, and my condolences are with his family at this very sad time. But let me know what you guys think of this in the comment section below. Give the video a little like, and if you want the latest drill, street and music news out of the UK, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. It's been your boy Huncho, and I'm out.